Hello, hello. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Smooth Podcasting with your host Phil and Jake,
Yeah, hello.
and we're here to speak some words on Shadow of what is it? Is it War? Shadow of War. Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot. This isn't Smooth Radio.
Why am I even here?
What's up, Jake? Do you have some words to say about Shadow of War?
Do I have any words to say about it? Hopefully a podcast's worth. Or half
I
a
have
podcast's
words.
worth.
I have words.
Okay.
I don't know if I could quantify how much words I have, but I do have words.
Alright, I'm still recovering from that intro.
I thought we were in a different. I thought this was a different pod. I thought we were doing Smooth Radio. You know, I've been listening to a lot of jazz.
Our other podcast.
Playing Shadow of War.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to call it Shadow of Mordor. Because that's what I think of it as, but Shadow of War.
Yeah.
Not Shadow of Mordor.
I don't know why they didn't call it Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of Mordor 2, though.
I don't know why they didn't call it Shadow of War-dor. Because Shadow of War-dor would have been the best title.
Yeah.
But yeah, like let's get into it. So how long have we've been playing it since release? So we were about a little. What, it came out Tuesday? Actually, it came out like Monday night.
Yeah, we got like that early.
I don't know how that happened. Maybe they just unlocked it early or whatever.
Yeah, a friend of mine was he got on Xbox and like it didn't unlock until the actual release day. So I don't know what's going on with Steam, but we get early access.
We're special.
Pretty sweet.
It's because this podcast has been doing so great.
Yeah, we got ever since we picked up that Monster Energy sponsorship and the other green and black company.
And now this jazz studio, we got we're blowing up. But yeah, so we've been playing it for a little bit, about a week, a little bit under a week.
Yep.
And I'm about 15 hours in.
I am. According to Steam,
seems like you're.
What?
It seems like you're not so far behind.
Well, that's because one night I turned it on to play it, and then I did not play it. So I'm probably closer to 10 hours than 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your rough take on it so far?
It's pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this game is pretty fun. I don't know if it's as mind-blowing as the firt one, though.
All right, well, we're done here. That's it.
Wrap it up.
It's pretty fun. That's it. No.
Wrap this thing up.
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of ways it's a pretty big improvement on the first one. I don't know. Do we want to go into like comparing it to the first one?
It's hard to compare it to the first one because I kind of flip-flopped on this game going into it. Like when it starts out and you don't have any of that army management stuff. Like when they were showing this game off, they were showing all this like army management. You're recruiting orcs, you're taking down other fortresses.
Yeah. And
there's this whole management thing, this whole other strategical layer to it. But that stuff doesn't come until like a couple hours into the game.
Act 2. You don't get any domination abilities until Act 2.
Yeah.
Which means technically a whole quarter of the game, not counting like how long acts are relative to each other.
Yeah.
But out of 4 acts, one of them you don't have any army anything.
And it just kind of goes. It kind of just starts and goes. Like it doesn't really. It kind of catches you up on the first one. But you're just like
flashback.
Yeah, you get a couple flashbacks, and then it kind of just sets you into this like little open world, and it is a look. It's small, but not like, I wouldn't say it's too small. Like it's a pretty sizable map.
Yeah, what, Minas Ithil, you mean, the first area?
Yeah, the first area, and there's like a siege going on.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's like, it's just like, and it's just like the first game. Like that first part is just like the first game.
Yeah. Except the first game, if you beat the game, then you got to like the branding and domination stuff.
Well, yeah, that was the only and that was the other thing is like you had a lot of power still. Like you didn't have you didn't have Shadow Strike and
Yeah, you had to
domination
re-unlock
stuff.
those from the first game.
But you still like you weren't like completely. They didn't like take all your powers away.
Right. Right.
But like right when that game started, it's like you get into the film, like you like, okay, this is how this game plays. You're like, yeah, I played the first one. You know how this goes.
Yeah.
And so you don't get to all that new stuff until Act 2. And so for the first half of that, or not the first half, but like the first bit of that game, I was just like, wow, this is just like, just like the first game. Where's like all this new stuff, yada yada yada. And then they get that army management stuff dumped on you. And then that adds a lot. Like once you get that stuff, like set, like it's a whole other game at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It becomes like I wouldn't call it like a whole different game, but instead of just worrying about like doing quests and taking down captains, you're like actively building an army and trying to upgrade them and stuff.
Yeah, it adds a whole different like dynamic to it, because then you start looking at like you start looking at the the layer of the armies, like the war chiefs and the overlord, and you start looking. It's like, okay, I got into this really good gameplay loop of, okay, I'm gonna look at this war chief. I'm gonna see who his bodyguards are. I'm gonna start looking for them. Maybe recruit one of them. And then I start looking at every orc I come across. I look at their strengths and weaknesses now.
Every captain, right?
Every captain I look at their strengths and weaknesses, because it makes like the whole thing makes each captain way more important, or potentially way more important.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see you care way more about them fighting each other or how they stack up against each other than previously, because then they were just targets previously, right? It was just like, okay, well, if they were weak to stealth, you would stealth them. If they were weak to whatever, you would do whatever. But now you're looking at, okay, not only how do you kill them, but like, okay, how do I use this guy to do whatever? So I just like look at the war chiefs. I like, okay, I find their weaknesses. I find an orc or a captain that has strengths against those weaknesses. I make them their bodyguard, assassinate the dude. And then if I like the war chief, I take the war chief too.
Nice.
But it's like it's a pretty satisfying loop, because it makes everything just so more like impactful. Like it makes everything has a lot more meaning. Yeah,
all the different buffs and debuffs that the different captains have, like you have to actually look at like what's useful and what's gonna work well against something else. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like it never seems like you run out of things to do. Like this could also be kind of a problem. But like you also don't really pay too much attention to the quest. Like I have barely like moved the story along
after getting to that like open zone.
Yeah, like once you get to the army management stuff, like it's just like you can keep the game going yourself at that point. Like the game it doesn't really play itself, but it makes itself.
Yeah, because it's all, rather than like playing through levels, you're just taking out captains who are all like procedurally generated stuff. So, like And you're
the one who's feeling that. You're the one who's making like, okay, like I want to go after this guy for whatever reason.
Yeah, because maybe he like killed you one time, or he got away from you.
Yeah, there was like this one guy. Like I remember there was this one captain who came up on me. I think he ambushed me, which is kind of this really fun but sometimes annoying thing.
Yeah.
Where they just come up on you and like try to attack you out of nowhere. But one of them, he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna brand you and make you, and that way I say I own you." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to brand you and and say I own you instead,
and literally own you."
And it creates all those like those little stories and everything.
Yeah.
And which is like it's like what the first game was, like where it was like you're creating those stories between you and the orcs, but now it's on like a bigger scale of like where you're like, okay, I want this guy to take out this guy for whatever reason, because like he like pissed off the one dude or whatever. Like it's this the game makes it like you make the game, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about like interesting orc encounters though, have you had the one where I think their tag is like the obsessed, and they're like a crazy like stalker? It's really weird.
No.
I had one. So I was like going after a different captain, and this one orc showed up, and he's like I forget what exactly he says, but he's like, they didn't mention how beautiful you were, or something like that. And he's like, he wants to like just love you, I guess. Like, I don't know. It was really
Does
weird.
he attack you?
So,
Does he...
yeah, no, he wants to like beat you and make you
Oh.
like, I guess like his little slave guy.
All right.
I don't know. It was a little weird, so I murdered him.
I had this one guy. I liked recruiting the Ologs because they're big and strong. So I recruited this one. Olog, and then as I was taking out a bodyguard or a war chief or something, he betrays me.
Yeah.
And so I kill him and behead him. And then I was killing this other Olag captain. And after I killed that Olag captain, the guy I beheaded came back to life, all stitched up together. Like he was he literally looked like an Olag abomination, like all stitched together. And he was called he was like his name, like the Stitched or something.
That's
like
incredible.
That. And he had he was legendary. He was a legendary. He came back legendary. And he had so much health, but he was too high for me to recruit him.
Oh yeah,
which really sucked.
That is one thing that's really annoying.
That's what I was That's what I was trying to transition to. It's just you get to those cool orc moments, but they're too high of level.
Yeah, I found this legendary captain orc, and he looked like he had Roman centurion armor almost. And I was like, this is awesome. So I beat him, dominate him. And then it's oh, you can't recruit him now. He's too high of a level. So I had to just shame him, which makes him just shittier. And then so I found him again after, and he was still too high of a level. So I had to double shame him.
You shamed him again? You could double do it?
Yeah, and so it brought him down to level 14, and then I found him again and I recruited him.
So I found that to be annoying.
Yeah, I don't see why you can't recruit. Just bring them down to my level if I want to recruit them.
That's what I think should happen. And there's also one thing I found that's helpful to counteract it is there's there's the gymming system. The white gems, if you put a white gem into the jewelry slot, it makes them go up however many levels. Yeah,
the basic one is excuse me. The basic one is they come up one level when you recruit them, and then the next one is 2 levels, I think, and probably linearly from there.
It can be kind of a bummer because you see you see a lot of cool orcs that are way higher level than you, and I don't know if it's maybe because I somehow rushed the game or I not over leveled or I'm under leveled or something. But all the captains, and now in the zone I'm in, I'm level 22. There's war chiefs and everything that are level 30 plus.
Yeah, I think part of that comes from not doing the main story and just hunting down captains all the time. I think doing the main story, it probably levels you a bit faster.
My problem is though, fighting those guys isn't hard. It's not I can't kill them
most of the time. Yeah.
So it seems it's just a weird disparity of I can fight these dudes.
Yeah, I beat this guy.
Yeah, but I can't recruit him and even if I shame him 5 times, it's still going to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, because that means you have to hunt him down all those times.
I don't even know if you can shame war chiefs.
War chiefs? I don't know. This guy was he was a legendary captain, but by the time I double shamed him, he's just a regular low-level captain.
I think they keep their...
He was still legendary, but he didn't have his cool gear anymore. He had a bunch of nails in him.
Oh, that sucks.
And he had a burned hand mark on his face. Which is it was cool though, because it actually, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
But once you shamed him, he changed from having his other title to having his title be the Unshamed or the Unashamed, something like that. And his whole dialogue was all about you shamed me, you son of a bitch, but I don't care. I'm gonna kill you. But then I shamed him again and then dominated him. But
I'm not ashamed to admit that half the reason I recruit some orcs is because of their aesthetic.
Yeah. No, I keep looking for an orc that looks really cool, and I keep getting these little scrawny ones.
Yeah. I mean that's why I like recruiting Ologs.
Yeah, well I haven't found a good Olag yet, other than the chopper who you have to get.
Oh, Bruce? I like Bruce. Bruce
he does talk a lot.
He does, but he's probably the only character probably some reason that I may not like the story of this game is because like I don't really like Lord of the Rings.
What?
But I know, shocker. I know.
How dare you?
Controversial opinion here.
Controversial opinion.
So I really haven't been paying much attention to the story. There's some ring, you got it back, and Sauron's bad, and we're fighting him, and whatever. The Gollum's there for some reason, which I think shouldn't really. I don't know why Gollum's there.
All right, we can go into a story breakdown of this if you want.
I mean, we can. Well, will it get spoilery?
Yeah, I did. Well, I don't think it's a spoiler because Lord of the Rings came out, I want to say in the 20s, the 1920s, like
all right,
the original books.
Then,
I don't know.
Then we had to get into it.
They're probably not that old, but they're pretty old. They came out a long time ago. All right, so the setting of Shadow of War is obviously it's right after Shadow of Mordor, and these two games come in between The Hobbit and The Fellowship of the Ring.
Is this canon? Is it?
I don't know if it's actually canon, but that's the timeline that these games are in. So it's canon, at least in the game. Like, they're using everything that actually exists.
And is Hobbit is before the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, The Hobbit is in universe timeline 60 years before Lord of the Rings. Bilbo finds the ring, goes back to the Shire. Spoilers for The Hobbit. And then and so Gollum tries to get the ring back from him, like in the cave when Bilbo gets it, and then Bilbo gets away. Gollum's like totally lost without it. Bilbo just settles down in the Shire because he's just a chill dude. And then you have 60 years of him just getting older, and then Frodo is like his great nephew or something like that. And so that, like, Lord of the Rings starts off, you know, with Fellowship when Frodo gets the ring and all that.
Yeah.
So in between, there's a 60-year span where Sauron is sort of rising to power again. A lot of people don't like think it's happening. Like if you in The Hobbit, in the movies at least, you see Saruman just like totally deny that it's even happening. He's like, Gandalf, like, you're nuts. This isn't. There's no way he's coming back. And then by the time it's Fellowship, he's been like talking to Sauron through the Palantir, and he's allied with him. I got a little off track there, but
I didn't even know where the track is.
So
that's how barely I know Lord of the Rings.
So it kind of makes sense for Gollum to be wandering around Mordor because he's just looking for the ring. I think in Shadow of Mordor, he starts to serve you because he thinks you can take him to the ring because you're the ring maker, or Celebrimbor is at least.
Yeah.
And so he thinks you can bring him back to the ring, and that's why he kind of like works for you. In the second game, they don't even explain like why he shows up and helps you. But if you played the first one, you kind of know.
I think they say it in this one because he works for Shelob.
Oh, I guess a little bit. Yeah, I missed that.
He keeps saying like the Spidey mistress or whatever, which I think is a weird.
It's a little weird. Also, I was going over this with one of my coworkers. In universe lore, Shelob is like the spawn of like the biggest spider of all time, Ungoliant. So she's definitely like a giant spider and not like a beautiful lady. I think we went over this in the past.
Well, for video game purposes, spiders do not work out.
They don't chart so well amongst teenage boys, and not as well, at least, as beautiful ladies.
Got real bad with giant spiders.
Yeah, they said these are people like it way too much. We gotta bring it, dial it back. Just make it a beautiful lady. How about that?
The weird thing about Shadow of War, though, is just like the story can be so, like, to me, it's so non-consequential. Like I really couldn't care less, but it's still a fun game. And it's one of the only games that I've played where that's where I can have that disconnect.
Yeah.
But it's probably why I like the Bruce character so much, is because he's just like a funny, like, orc who I really don't like. Like, he's just an orc, but he's funny and he has that. I wonder who plays him. I should probably do.
I don't know.
Proper due diligence and find out who plays him. But
maybe we should have done any research before.
But he's like probably to me, like, and as someone who's not paying much attention to the story and whatever, he's probably the best character.
Man, I don't know. I like. I thought
Also, Celebrimbor has turned into a dick.
Yeah, I have a theory about that, and it seems
Wait, and I can't remember. Was he a dick in Shadow of Mordor too?
I don't remember him being this much of a dick.
Because
But
he's really a dick in this game.
yeah, I've been talking to one of my friends with a theory about that. I don't know if we talked about it at all, but I don't know if we want to go into a theory crafting session.
I mean, we
this.
can. We can.
This is
Let's
the
dig
place to
into
do it. All right.
Let's dig into it.
So at the end of Shadow of Mordor, Jesus Christ, Shadow of Mordor.
Mordor.
At the end of Shadow of Mordor, which I had totally forgotten. I just remembered there was like a quick time event where you kill Sauron. Basically, what happens is one of Sauron's servants like cuts his own throat to like merge with Celebrimbor, and then Sauron like takes form from that combination. Yeah. And then like the way you beat him is Celebrimbor like stuns him from the inside, and like you stab him up. And then you just get Celebrimbor back, and like the thing is, as soon as you get Celebrimbor back, like everything sort of wraps up, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna retire to Elf Heaven, and Talion's like, not yet, we have to make a ring and beat Sauron forever. And Celebrimbor's like, you're right, Elf Heaven can wait. And that just brings you to the beginning of this game where they forge the new ring and all that stuff. But so the theory that I and one of my coworkers came up with, which seems it's definitely been hinted at in the game already, is that Celebrimbor might be either controlled by Sauron or actually Sauron's spirit,
or like influenced by Sauron's spirit.
Yeah. What I kind of have in my head is maybe he's maybe Celebrimbor and Sauron are like the same person, but like Celebrimbor is like the Bright Lord side of his spirit, and then Sauron's like the Dark Lord side.
Aren't they? Was Sauron ever an elf?
No. Oh, that brings us into more backstory. Sauron is a Maiar, I believe.
Oh, and those are like the gods, right?
Well, they're like. Oh, we talked about this in World of Warcraft terms before. So there's like the overall god. I think his name's Iluvatar, and then his children are the Ainur, I believe, something like that. And they're like Morgoth, and I don't think Ungoliant was an Ainur, but Morgoth was definitely one. And then below them are the Maiar, which are like Gandalf, the other wizards, Sauron.
Is Celebrimbor a Maiar?
I think he's just an elf. Well, at least...
but he can make the Rings of Power, right?
Well, he was the greatest elf smith of all time.
He will never stop telling you that.
Yeah. So, in this... And I don't know if it's the actual canon or not. I think it might be, but Sauron tricks Celebrimbor into making the rings for him. I think, at least in the movies, I'm pretty sure Sauron makes the rings, or I don't remember the books very well. And then Sauron on his own forges the One Ring, which has like a secret backdoor into all the other rings to control them, except for like the ones that the elves wear, because they're just like unaffected pretty much. That's a whole side tangent. How did we get here? How did this? Oh, the theory.
Shadow of War has a story. That's how we got it.
The theory. The theory that we were coming up with though is that either Celebrimbor is Sauron or controlled by Sauron, and probably at the end of this, Talion is gonna become like maybe like the mortal vessel for Sauron, or like maybe Talion just dies and Sauron like just merges back with Celebrimbor, something like that. Because like we can't win because Talion's not in Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, so here's what's. I don't want to skip ahead here, but
yeah,
maybe we should set this as a goalpost and get there towards the end of the show. But,
okay.
Because like, do you think at some point do you think there will be like a Shadow of whatever? Like, do you think there will be a Shadow of Mordor 3 or Shadow of Peace?
Shadow of Peace. It's a farming simulator game. Play as Talion and his farm next to the Black Gate. Like,
it's like Stardew Valley, but with Talion.
You do like
rings.
You do just regular guard duty where you're just up on the black gate and you're like, yep, still no orcs. And that's like most of the game.
And a title card, Shadow of Peace.
Shadow of Peace. That was the tutorial.
Do that for 15 hours.
Flashbacks to actual fighting, and then the gameplay is just walking around.
So do you think like there will be like obviously we haven't finished the game yet.
No, I think both of us are in Act 2, and as I understand it, there's 4 acts total.
Okay. So do you think that there will be a third game, a third installment?
It depends, I guess, where this one ends, because it could be like, oh, we fight Sauron but we get captured, and then like next game you like break free or whatever. Like I don't.
Yeah. They
could end it any way they want. And the first one, I thought it was kind of the end until they did the whole like, we're gonna have a sequel, like right at the end of it.
Yeah.
So like, this one has a lot more foreshadowing though that Talion's gonna like either turn evil or like be controlled by Sauron or something. Like when the Witch King in Act 1, these are spoilers for Shadow of War, for Act 1-ish. When the Witch King sort of like captures you and starts like turning your eyes like red, yellow.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty like Sauron color. I don't know if that I don't know if that's like super clear.
Checks out. Checks out.
That's kind of the color of like a Sith in Star Wars: The Old Republic, what their eyes look like. It's definitely bad guy eye color. So, and with the way Celebrimbor's been acting about like how his ring's like so important, it's very Sauron-y. And also, there's one point at the end of Act 1 where literally, this is a pretty big spoiler for Act 1 still. Celebrimbor's like, we'll bring Sauron back to you in chains, and Shelob's like, but you're the same as Sauron. And Talion's like, huh? And Celebrimbor's like, never mind all that. let's go to the next zone.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty big, and like we kind of had started this theory before reaching that moment, but that's at least if you're working under the assumption that this theory is true, that's a very like damning line by Shelob, who allegedly only tells the truth.
Which I think putting Talion seems pretty hell bent on putting all his eggs in a giant spider trust basket
For some reason, yeah.
I guess for the reason of just cuz.
For the reason of
like.
She showed him a vision once, and it came true. And after that, he was like, "Okay, yeah, no, everything she says, we're doing that. Absolutely."
Can't possibly be an evil motive there.
Yeah, a creature that lives in the darkness and is literally a giant spider. No, I'm on her side. She's the one for me.
Literally a giant spider.
Literally a giant fucking spider. But she also looks like a beautiful lady, so
she also can sometimes be a beautiful lady. So
when she's not a giant fucking spider.
When reminder that she's a giant spider.
And her children are spiders.
Yeah. I guess we should kind of dig into the game a bit. Like the gameplay and everything.
Yeah.
Besides, we talked a little bit about the army management stuff, but the combat is still there. The traditional combat from the first game.
The
How are you feeling the combat?
It's pretty fun. I think for some reason I remember the first game being a lot more satisfying. Like I feel like in just like fighting random orc grunts, there were a lot more like beheadings and de-armings and stuff. Like, and in this game it feels like I'm hitting them with a baseball bat until like sometimes I like cut off a part of them, or I just like hit them with a baseball bat and then they die. And I've got a lot of the combat upgrades and I'm still not getting any more, unless I do an execution, I'm not getting any more of that stuff.
Do you time the perfect counters? Like, do you have the thing that when you do a perfect counter it kills them instantly?
I don't remember if I have that one or not. I have at least one of the upgrades for counters. I think I do.
So I have all the main upgrades in the combat tree.
Yeah.
And I think I have at least one of the, individual upgrades for each individual talent. The talent tree is a bit weird, but it's pretty. It's weird to think of it as a talent tree because it's more like just an ability path or whatever.
Yeah.
But I have all the ones in the combat one, and at least one upgrade for each individual one.
Mm-hmm.
And if I get into a good flow of the combat, it still looks pretty cool. Like if you do the perfect counters, if I have the thing where the might can be doubled, and then you can do a brutal execution, those look pretty cool sometimes. Mm-hmm. Executing an O-log is always fun. I even have the thing. even have the thing where you vault over them and stun them and then kill them sometimes that way.
No,
so I think it's really just like you have to be fluid in the combat, and you had to have a variety of upgrades.
Do you remember in the first one, like a lot of beheadings when you're just like fighting random orcs?
Yeah, kinda. I think so. It's been a long time since I played the first game.
I mean, same for me. I first played it like 4 years ago, I think.
Yeah,
so
when it came out.
Yeah, it's been quite some time. But that was just something I noticed, like, from the beginning of this game, is that the combat, it's the same combat, just the animations and the kills felt less satisfying.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, and I think looking now that I'm thinking about it, it does kind of seem like it's probably specifically less beheadings.
Yeah, because I mean, part of the reason that I don't like that is that like I'm hitting them with a sword, and I don't see wounds opening up on them. It's basically like I'm hitting them with a baseball bat until they fall over, or sometimes they get their head cut off. But not enough heads cut off.
Maybe one reasoning for it is because like I think maybe decapitating is now like a special like
execution only thing.
Yeah, it was not execution only, but like when I noticed that when you decapitate a captain, it specifically says like you decapitated them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's supposed to probably like decrease the chance that they come back.
Yeah.
So maybe that's like maybe they lower the chance of you doing a beheading to compensate for that or something.
But if you're just fighting regular orcs, I don't get it.
Yeah, true.
I don't know.
And like I think the combat is fun.
Yeah.
But I am having a little bit of problem. Like sometimes
it feels tedious.
Yeah, it's sometimes like your character like this is probably a bigger issue with the PC controls are not the best. They're not terrible, but they're not great either.
Yeah, they're okay.
Yeah, they're okay. And like one of the weird ones is like you got this like Superman dash you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And to do it, you have to scroll up on the scroll wheel, which is really weird.
Oh wait, I rebound a lot of my stuff, so I'm not sure if I've used that or not.
Too lazy.
I couldn't deal with spacebar being sprint and shift being stealth, so I had to change
I got used to it. But like I have a lot of trouble in the combat sometimes. Like there's certain orcs that you can't vault over.
Yeah, they have like the vault breaker buff.
Yeah, and I am constantly so I'll constantly be in battles with like orcs like that, and also orcs that have the shield, which you're supposed to vault over.
Yeah, you have to, pretty much.
Yeah, so I will be spamming space to vault over them, and then my character will somehow say, not that guy, I'm going to go vault over the guy I can't vault over.
Yep.
And then repeat that ad infinitum until I get very angry.
Also, sometimes if there's a captain with a group of orcs and you're trying to stealth kill him from a ledge, it will not target the captain. Even, like no matter how much you move your mouse around and you're like,
nope,
no, that one, that one. And it only ever highlights the guys around him.
Yep. And also it seems to be like a problem with just like there's like an invisible targeting reticle somewhere.
Yeah.
And since it's invisible, you have no idea what Talion's gonna do when you press a button, which can be kind of frustrating. Like I have gotten caught so many times because I'm trying to jump to a different ledge, or I'm trying to sneak up on a ledge or whatever, and Talion just goes off in this complete other direction because he was looking in a certain degree away from what I was looking at or whatever.
Yeah.
And that can be kind of frustrating.
Also, sometimes if you're trying to chase somebody, Italian will just decide, like, you know what I'd rather do? I'd rather climb this fucking wall next to me.
Yep. I'd rather just climb this to, like, very top.
You know the wall you're not running at? I'm going to climb it.
That's when I
That
learned
could be pretty annoying.
the shoot to pin them thing was very valuable.
Yeah, it's really helpful. Especially,
Yeah.
I chased one orc who every time you got close to him would basically like throw like a flashbang and disorient you, and he'd keep sprinting. And so like, I was almost impossible to get close to him. I had to like go around a thing and surprise him. But like, your sprint just like wasn't fast enough to catch him.
Yeah. The combat is fun when it works. But there are times where it's just like it feels like it's working against you. And then sometimes that can be really like those times can be really frustrating. Because like if there's something that like really bothers me in gaming, it's like when a control, like when I feel like I'm not in perfect control of my character. Because that just leads to moments like, man, I was like trying to go this way, and the character just is like doing something completely different. But that's like, to me, it's just like now, as like with Shadow of Mordor, that was the main part of that game. Now there's this whole like strategical element on top of that, which I think I have more fun in that aspect almost. Like, have you done the actual sieging of the fort, the first one?
No, I'm really excited to do that. That's probably like the next thing I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think another quest I'm gonna do first. There's like something about the Witch King and the Palantir.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of stuff you can do with like the going after the forts and like managing the army, like so you can level up your orcs by having them fight each other, and you can just you can just watch them fight, which is kind of fun sometimes. Or you can intervene sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you can intervene and help your orc, and that way they gain levels and they're better for the siege.
Wait, so do you mean you can have two of your own captains fight each other?
I don't know about that. As far as the UI goes, I don't think there's anything stopping that. I haven't tried
that.
I haven't tried it, but I wouldn't be surprised if you could.
That's a strategy, though. Recruit a bunch of captains, have them kill each other until only the strongest are left as your captains.
At this point, I recruit more captains than I kill.
Yeah, me too, because it's just more useful in the long run.
It's just like there's more people I could use to kill other captains.
Yeah, I'm basically the Lich King.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the whole, like, you become the Lich King, like even like the way they glow white and it's all whispery. And
their eyes are glowing blue and white. Like,
you're the Lich King, like 100%.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
You can even capture an orc, make him fight another orc to be a war chief's bodyguard, and then when you go fight that war chief, your orc will just stab that war chief in the back. So there becomes a whole element of like just looking at each individual weakness and strength and like picking like, okay, this war chief is weak to fire. This guy has a fire axe. I'm gonna make him fight this other orc to become the dude who's weak to fire's bodyguard. And then when I attack the war chief, the fiery dude will just light him on fire and kill him.
Yeah, that's so sick.
It just becomes and the whole time, like, it's not just some instantaneous process either. Like you're in it every step of the way because you have to go watch the orc fight. You have to go help the orc do whatever, and then you have to initialize the fight for the war chief. And then when you do the actual siege, like there's all these different upgrades you can get for your army. Like there's this this versus screen where it's the fortress versus your army, and there's all these different upgrades you can get, and that changes everything. That changes like the actual fight, whether there's Caragors everywhere, whether there's like siege cannons, whole 9 yards, and then you do the actual siege. It's a lot of like a strategy game where, there's strategy games where you do like the little turn-based combat sometimes, but it's not that fun. Like it's not that thought out and it's not that fleshed out. This is that, but where it's completely fleshed out.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And and then when you actually capture the fortress, then you put your guys there and that becomes a whole other thing.
Yeah, I remember some of that in like the demos of the game. Like I haven't played it, but I remember watching the gameplay demos of like sieging this first fortress. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. Just haven't.
To me, that's when like the whole army thing is what makes this game stand out, because when I was first playing Act 1 and everything, it was just like, oh yeah, this is great, this is fun, but like, this is just like the first game. But it's that army stuff that really changes.
Is there one fortress per zone? Because I know there's like the forts that you can like kill.
So this is what I don't understand is like when you zoom out, like, so there's a map for each zone, and then there's the big map. And that seems to be like there is one fort, like that's not crystal clear. Like that's not like I captured the zone that I'm in. Like when I captured that original fortress, there's still like these 2 orange blips on the map, and I don't know if those are other fortresses or if those are outposts or whatever. I don't know what the distinction is there. But then like it gave me quests to each other fortress to kind of go different direction. One thing I will say like about all this stuff though is like you spend quite a bit of time in menus, just like looking at the orcs or looking at stuff. Like you spend a lot of time in the menus. Like I said, at 15 hours in, I'd had to say at least a third of that, maybe a fourth of those are probably just looking at menus of like, what orcs am I going to get, or what mission am I going to go after, or this loot, or any just looking at the army. It's a lot of menu. I'd say maybe at the most a fourth, but like once you get into like once I got to the second zone, my first thing was, okay, I'm going to go interrogate a bunch of people, get as much intel as I can as possible, and then I just sat and looked at the army, and it was like theory crafting how I'm going to. I'm going to capture this guy. I'm going to recruit him. I'm going to make him fight this dude, get him to level up, and that way he'll be better at fighting this other dude. And then I'll kill that dude because he'll probably have some good loot. And then once he's, that's to me, like that's where that whole other part of the game comes in, and you spend a lot of time. At least I did, just like looking at the menus, it's looking at the armies, and essentially comparing stats.
Yeah. And also that's the other thing is the menus are not super good for like keyboard and mouse control. You could tell they're made for like using a controller. They do an okay job, but like especially the inventory menu is really weird for a keyboard and mouse. Yeah,
and that's and I guess that's a good transition. Like the whole loot system is weird. Like the whole loot thing is weird.
Kinda, yeah. It's weird to get epic, legendary, or rare gear, and then just like you get a white on like the next drop that's better.
Yeah, and it's especially weird because like it feels very tacked on. Like it feels very like
I don't know.
To me it feels like an afterthought.
I don't know that I would say that. I would say that it's weird when you get like low-level epics or legendaries every epic or legendary or rare even I think has like challenges to make it better.
Yeah.
But what's weird is that you get low-level ones like level 5 or anything below 10, and their challenges are stuff like dominate a captain who's at least level 20, or like dominate a marauder captain, and like you're in Act 1 and there's no way you can do that.
Like I said, it feels like it's not fleshed out.
I feel like the loot tables could have been like shored up a bit more.
It just feels like the whole thing just feels like it just wasn't originally intended to be as fleshed out as it. Like it just feels like something that
maybe
came from higher up, or like
I don't know that I 100% agree with that. I think it's a pretty decent loot system. I like the gem slots and the fact that there's 3 different types of gems.
Yeah. There's
an upgrade track for gems. Like in terms of like you get a bunch of little ones, you merge them together in a better one. That's like a very Diablo feeling thing, and I like that a lot. And I like that of those 3 different types of gems, they do a different thing whether they're in a weapon, helmet, or weapon Diablo. Gear, or ring.
Very Diablo.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like that, and I feel like the gem system's like really nicely done. It's really tidy.
It's cool. I don't know if I like. To me, it's like it would be fine without it. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't think the game necessarily needed a loot system. And then to me, it's especially weirder with the loot boxes. Like the loot boxes make the whole thing just like going into the game, there's a
Yeah.
lot of like, oh, are they going to, balance towards pay to win or what, whatever. I haven't felt at any time like I needed to get a loot box, which again makes it
Yeah.
just feel like such a weird, like, why is it in there? Like,
Yeah.
what?
So like, all right, I don't know if we want to fully talk about loot boxes. I have a few more things to say about like the loot system first.
Go say your thing about the loot system.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm trying to think of where I was with it because now all I'm thinking about is the loot boxes. Let's see, the loot system. Yeah, we can just talk about loot boxes. I don't remember. So yeah, the thing is, you get all this Mirian from. Oh, I remember what it was. So you can get Mirian from orcs, which is like the currency, or when you kill captains, you get gear, and it's just like random gear.
Yeah,
it can sometimes be awesome, sometimes it's just garbage, whatever. But I've never felt like the rate at which I was getting gear was like too slow, and like, oh, I need upgrades to do better. Like you just get the gear and you're like, okay, pretty good, but it doesn't feel like it makes a huge difference. Like I never switched swords and I was like, oh my god, it's so much easier now. The sword's amazing.
There was a couple items that I got that made kind of a difference. Like I got this one sword that would occasionally light enemies on fire. Which was
that's
helpful.
really helpful.
I got one that like every time I executed a captain, all my damage for the next 10 seconds would apply poison. That stuff is kind of helpful, but then you get stuff along, like you get that such early level that like, you replace it at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You get these really cool, like rare and legendary weapons, like pre-level 10, and then they're just garbage. Like you just have to get rid of them because you get a white drop at like level 12 that does more damage, and you're like, oh no, that does more damage. But with the way the loot system already works, it didn't feel to me like I never felt like I had to buy loot boxes. I will say I felt like I had way too much Mirian, so I just bought like the silver like item chests. Because like other than that, all you use Mirian for is like really, really cheap upgrades to weapons once you complete the challenges.
Well, so when you get the first fort, when you
is there a use for Mirian?
Then you can buy fort upgrades, which cost a lot of Mirian.
Oh shit! I better stop spending.
Yeah, you probably should. But again, you get that Mirian back pretty quickly. Like I went from like 6,000 to like a few hundred, and then I got it right back.
Yeah, and especially if you're killing a lot of captains and getting loot, you just like basically disenchant that loot for Mirian.
The other thing though is just like again, like all this loot stuff just feels so not right because like again, like also the act of looting the loot can be a pain in the butt.
Yeah, there's an upgrade actually that if you just run over
that just makes it super easy. I saw that today and I was like, that just kind of feels. I don't know if that feels good or if it feels scummy that they had to upgrade. Like
I'm gonna be grabbing either that or dragon riding as my next one.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like the whole thing makes me think like the game is not very much better with loot, and it wouldn't be worse at all without the loot.
I don't 100% agree.
Like, I don't know.
I feel like the loot is nice because when you kill a captain, if there were no loot system, you'd just be like, you killed a captain, yay, and like you don't get any nice stuff.
I mean, you can get XP and stuff like.
But I feel like it's more satisfying when you kill a captain and you see like a rare or legendary weapon. You're like, oh shit, like this is sick. But like if you just killed captains and it was like, hooray, 50 experience points to you, sir. Like it would be it would feel underwhelming, I think, a lot of the time. And also it gives a good balance for whether you want to kill or dominate a captain. Like on one hand, you get a follower in your army. On the other hand, maybe you get some good loot from him that you wouldn't otherwise get. So
that's true.
It gives the only reason to not just dominate every captain you meet.
That's true. I still just think like that benefit isn't necessarily, in my opinion, worth like just like the trouble. Like they to me it feels like half-assed. Like it just wasn't. It's not 100% fleshed out. Just like with the way you loot it, with the style loot, it just could have been better.
I will agree. It's annoying to have to try to like run up and press F on it when F is also like a key that grabs orcs. So if there's any orcs nearby, you're like, do you want to loot or do you want to just grab this dude? And every time Talion's like, I want to grab the dude.
I just want to hug this orc really, really bad.
I see the loot right there. I know you controlling me probably want it, but I'm gonna grab this dude. Every time.
It's whatever. But I think I at the end of the day, I still think the game is fun. It's especially with the army management stuff. I think like I don't know if I would. The thing that's hard to say is like whether or not I think it's as fun as the first game.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if I should say that because I think the game it is definitely as fun as the first game. But the first game I remember being like surprised by, like being like blown away, like being like, oh, this is like a sleeper hit. This is like new IP, or not new IP, but
new IP. Nobody's ever heard of this Lord of the Rings thing before. What is it?
New franchise, kind of.
Yeah.
New series. And it was just like you know, it was a surprising amount of fun, and it was really good. And this one just feels like, okay, well, they it's a solid sequel. They built upon the first game. They added new stuff. They didn't like, you know, go backwards in any way. You could say the loot box stuff is but that's a whole different.
I don't even think I'd call the loot box stuff backwards. I'd say for me, the only thing I like less than the first one is just the regular combat with orcs feels graphically less satisfying. There's less, like, I don't know what it is. It's just less gore, I guess. But it's not that I want like a super gore fest, but like, it just feels like it's missing a little something fighting regular orcs. All the additions to like army management and everything it's huge. It's like a whole other facet of the game that the first one didn't really have. They had a little bit of like, you would recruit the captains and send them to like backstab people or whatever, but there was no siege mechanics in the first game. There was a lot less. The first game, however, felt like more of a tighter experience. Like it was only about, I think I played more of the second game already than I played the first game time-wise. In the first game I was done and I was satisfied. Whereas the second game has a lot more, I wouldn't call it like bloat, but there's a lot more content in it, I'd say. I wasn't a huge fan of the way that the entire first 10-ish hours of the game aren't even the full game. Like when I was playing it, I was like, oh, Minas Ithil must be the tutorial zone. And it is, but there's also Cirith Ungol, and then back to Minas Ithil, and it's all the tutorial, and it's the whole first act. Like,
that first stretch kind of drags on for a bit.
I would say that. I'd say, I don't know that I'd say longer than it should, because like story-wise, like all the beats kind of made sense. And it helps to like slowly introduce you to the different mechanics. It doesn't, if we had just started the game in Act 2, we'd kind of be like,
a little overwhelmed.
Especially if you hadn't played the first game, you would the third game. If you hadn't played the first game and you were just dropped into Act 2, you wouldn't really know how to play and like how to do stuff. So I think the first act was a really nice like build up into that. But it definitely, if you played the first game, it felt like the first act really drags on.
So I just checked, just out of curiosity, I just checked how many hours I put into Shadow of Mordor. I played that game and I beat it. I got exactly 15 hours on that game, and that's the same exact amount of hours I have on Shadow of War.
And you're probably under halfway in Shadow of War.
Probably under halfway. Probably under a third of the way if I was to take a random guess. The game is definitely deeper and like has more depth than the first game. That's for sure. And
I think, as much as you've been saying like you're not a huge fan of like the loot system, I think it's a fairly satisfying system in the game. It feels like you're doing more stuff when you're just like getting loot and you're like, oh, these are upgrades, these are better. Like, it feels good. And I think that kind of helps to pad it out without it getting too tedious.
Well, to me, the real thing that like, to me, the real thing to point at Shadow of War and say this is what this is the meaningful improvement, and this is the thing that will like really give the game the true depth. It's the army management stuff
and the sieges and everything.
And the sieges. That's where
absolutely
the game separates itself and stands out. And I think that's where like I think if you were playing Shadow of Mordor, it introduced the Nemesis system. And you were at the end of it, you were kind of wondering like where could you go with the Nemesis system from here. I think that is this like the whole army management and siege stuff is like the natural progression of that that system, which I think is really cool. So like I guess to wrap it up, I guess we should like say like what could we expect from a third game, if there is a third game.
It's hard to say that without having beaten this one yet.
Well, yeah.
Maybe we'll have to do a second like post-mortem podcast on this after we're both done with it.
Maybe.
Probably not, but maybe. But with the third game, I don't know, in terms of systems, I don't know how you could expand it, and I don't see that they would. This game's already pretty big in scale.
Yeah.
In terms of like you're fighting like a full-on war against Sauron, like building your army against his army. In a third game, like how I don't think you could change it unless the third game was you play a Sauron and you make war on Middle-earth. Which honestly, I would play the shit out of that. That'd be awesome. But
that'd be a cool twist.
Yeah, if the third game was called like Shadow of Morgoth or something, or Shadow of Sauron, I would play that in a minute. Well, I'd take a long time to play it.
Here's a little bonus question: what game series or what IP or what world or like what game would you want to see the Nemesis system also be? Where else would you like to see? I always think like Star Wars. Star Wars would be cool.
That'd be neat
if there was a Nemesis system in like a Star Wars game.
It would make a lot of sense in like a sort of a bounty hunter game where you're
or even like if you were playing as the Jedi hunting Sith or the Sith hunting Jedi.
That'd be very cool too, but it would be tough because like it would have to be in like an Old Republic type setting where there's a lot of Jedi and Sith. The reason bounty hunter makes sense to me is I can see way more combinations of like scumbag space criminal than I can of like Jedi or Sith in terms of like keeping a lot of enemies in the enemy pool and making them all feel distinct.
Yeah.
Because there's so many like scumbag characters to draw from in Star Wars. That's a good pick for it, I think. How about what's like a world where you'd like to see sort of the army management stuff? Like, would you still want to see that in a Star Wars type setting? I don't know how you would really.
I think I'd like to see that in a Warcraft setting.
Yeah, that'd be really sick. Like, or just any fantasy setting. I think it's a little weird to be like a human recruiting orcs. It'd be cool to see like this in like sort of a more medieval fantasy type thing where you're a human recruiting humans, and rather than branding them, you're like offering them like mercy or whatever to get them to serve you.
Yeah, and then you could do more with like after you had like there could be more management there with like keeping them happy.
And betrayals would make more sense because instead of just like shaking off your control for no reason, they'd be like, you know what, I've decided I don't like you after all. Like you did cut my leg off in that duel. Like that's why I'm betraying you. In this game, they're just instantly loyal when you brand them and instantly hostile when they betray you. There's no...
Well, even when I got the betrayal I got, I think, I'm not sure if this is for all betrayals, but the guy got this new trait where he would resist my...
I couldn't rebrand him.
Like, you can't rebrand them.
I tried to, because I was like, you know what? No, I have the stronger will here.
You can't keep traitors, man. You gotta just cut their heads off. That's what I did.
Well, I ended up having to do that, but I wanted to just re-break him. But
I cut that guy's head off, and he still came back, though. So. I hope he comes back. Like, he kept saying, he's like, you can't kill me, I'm immortal. And I was like, I hope so, because if you come back again, then I'm taking you back. At that point, you earn the right. You earn the right to come back into the ranks. You can't die.
Only the strongest in my army. You can't be killed.
That'd be a good pick.
Yeah, although I guess to free him from your control, all they'd have to do would be cut his head off and then sew it back on.
That's a hard reset.
That's holding down the power button of that orc. Yeah.
All right. Well, do you think you? You had something else?
One other small thing. I don't know if you checked Steam achievements for this game, but a lot of them seem bugged. Because I was going through to see what ones I have and what ones I don't, and there's like a lot of ones I don't have that I definitely have.
You
like,
should.
Yeah, like there's one achievement that's like open any one of the Athilden doors, and like I've opened 2 already. Maybe Act 1 doesn't count. I don't know. And like other stuff like Shelob's memories and stuff where there's like a progress bar that says like however many out of the max have 0 out of the max, and it's like I've done these, and I was connected to the internet at the time. So that's weird. I don't know if those are going to be fixed later.
Yeah,
or if it's going to be
Steam achievements have always been wacky.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be one of those cases where I'll beat the whole game and look back and there's all these achievements I should have that I don't. It's not a big deal, but it's a little annoying. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you have anything else to wrap up with, or anything else you want to touch on before we bow out?
One last other little thing. You had, when we first started playing this game, I think you had asked me about the graphics, how they compare to the first game, if they're like a big leap ahead. Did you want to talk about that at all, or no?
Oh yeah, like I mean, yeah, you kind of just said it. Like the graphics, it very much seems like this game is on the same engine.
Yeah,
as the first.
and
I just like again with the first game, I remember being so impressed by it. And one of those reasons was graphically it was really good, and I'm not getting that same feeling.
Yeah, this game just feels okay. Characters' faces and stuff, especially the Gondorians, their faces are like really simple.
Yeah, especially after playing the Battlefront 2 beta, which had like really gorgeous
everything
game.
Except that one resistance fighter who looks like a cross-eyed Lucius Malfoy. Other than that, though, like it's hard when you've played a beta like that of a game that, like, I think probably is graphically the most gorgeous game, like, in this year, probably. I don't know. I haven't.
Probably, maybe.
At least that's obviously it's a subjective thing, and it's. I think photorealistic graphics are really good. Some people really like. They think like cartoony-ish graphics are like the most beautiful or whatever. So like, that's up to everybody. But in terms of like games that have the most like crisp photorealistic graphics, it's really hard to compete with the new Battlefront games.
Yeah.
And so it's tough when you've played those and then you come to this and you're like, well,
it's not bad.
Right. Yeah,
it's not bad.
No, it looks good. It's definitely not bad, but it's hard when you've seen like perfect.
Yeah, I'm a little annoyed with I hate it when games have cutscenes that aren't in your character's gear.
Oh yeah, they always switch you to the starting gear.
Yeah, I hate that. It really bothers me.
It makes sense.
Ruins my immersion.
My immersion. In a world which I don't care about. Your words, though.
Yeah, my immersion into this world of orcs and goblins or whatever. I don't care.
Are there goblins? There's goblins in actual Lord of the Rings, but in this game, I think they're all just called orcs. The other thing is they're all called uruks. And uruks are
like one tribe.
Yeah, it's like a specific race of orc, and I don't know if it was created by Saruman, but like I feel like they shouldn't all be called uruks yet. I don't know. There's a lot of like Morgul orcs and everything.
Well, speaking of Battlefront 2, that'll be the next game we cover. And approximately, when's that game come out?
That transition. It comes out on November 17th.
And you had that at the ready.
Yeah, I know that for sure.
Can't wait for that game.
I think pre-orders you get to play early.
So maybe we'll get it a bit early.
We'll see. That's quite a.
So that's been Shadow of War.
Yeah.
It's War-y.
War-y. Yeah. War-y. This has been our easy listening podcast.
Smooth War.
Our smooth radio Shadow of War podcast.
Join us in approximately a month, maybe more. Probably more like a month and a week. It comes out on the 17th. Yeah. So we'll play it for like a week, and then we'll do an episode.
Join us in 5 to 6 weeks.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Sometime in November.
Yeah. Or maybe December. Who knows? Sometimes we're a little late on these.
We take our time.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. It's been a good one, I think. Can we just declare that?
Oh yeah, we can declare anything we want. It's the internet.
This has been a great podcast. Everybody who listened, you just witnessed a good podcast. All right.
Your ears witnessed.
Yeah. I hope you better have enjoyed that. All right, I'm gonna stop recording.